CBS News, this is Reed Collins. Astronauts are closing in on that disabled Solar Max satellite 307 miles above the Earth this morning. This is their last-ditch effort to try to capture it before the shuttle runs out of fine maneuvering fuel. The commander, Robert Crippen, will move the shuttle beneath the satellite, reach up and try to grab it with that 50-foot triple-jointed mechanical arm. This should happen some 2.5 hours from now. President Reagan...
5 miles and closing. Challenger has twice fired up its big maneuvering engines this morning, putting it on a path toward a second shot at history's first satellite rescue. The $77 million Solar Max satellite coasts in an orbit about 300 miles high, awaiting the salvage crew aboard the shuttle. The main worry aboard the shuttle is fuel in its forward maneuvering rockets. Only 20% of that gas supply remains. Just how far that gas is going to carry the Challenger, just how many chances at grabbing the satellite this morning is anyone's guess. Now for the 5 astronauts, it's just a matter of waiting, taking care of business, minor business, like fixing a little radiation meter on a shuttle experiment, a busted meter that prompted this down-to-earth solution from Mission Control.
Okay, Crip, the scientific solution to the problem is to try rotating the switch a few times. If that doesn't work, hit it.
That's complete.
Okay, if that doesn't work, hit it. And if that doesn't work, try changing the battery.
Well, there's no word on whether those quick fix devices worked at all yet. The main thing Mission Control is worried about is that something else works later on today. The plan to rescue that Solar Max satellite. The grapple is scheduled at 2 minutes until 8 this morning, Houston time. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
CBS News, this is Jackie Judd. A second chance is just hours away for the astronauts turned repairmen aboard the shuttle Challenger.
We are in the terminal initiation maneuver phase of our rendezvous with Solar Max. We are currently about 14 miles away, and we're closing at a rate of around 8 feet per second.
This is Bruce Dunning at the Kennedy Space Center. They're on TI, that's Terminal Phase Initiation Maneuver, and it means the Shuttle Challenger is closing in on the crippled satellite, getting in position to snag Solar Max with the shuttle's triple-jointed crane. In less than 2 hours, Terry Hart will reach out with the 50-foot arm to embrace Solar Max around its waist. The arm will wait close to the satellite, poised to latch on to the trunnion pin or hitch as the satellite revolves slowly. NASA scientists managed to slow down the Solar Max enough to make this maneuver feasible. It's the last chance for the shuttle astronauts to bring the Solar Max on board for repairs, and it's a crucial test of the shuttle's future value as an outer space repair truck. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Spotted the target early.
We get a fantastic visual on Solar Max here as the sun starts to come up. It's really pretty.
Copy, sounds good.
Flying 300 miles above the Earth, Challenger is closing in. Every second brings the shuttle 4 feet closer to the slowly spinning satellite awaiting its rescue. This high-speed hot pursuit will end as the shuttle parks about 200 feet away from the satellite. Then comes the most crucial task of all, nudging the shuttle up to Solar Max, reaching up with the triple-jointed 50-foot arm and grabbing onto the custom-designed handle mounted on the satellite so many years ago. All this while the shuttle and Solar Max slowly spin at a rate of 0.5 degree a second. These crucial maneuvers now beginning at this point as the shuttle closes in. The berthing itself, the grabbing onto the Solar Max, expected just before 8 o'clock this morning, Houston time. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
The space shuttle is poised for one last attempt to grab the solar satellite. Pennsylvania prepares to parcel out another 172 Democratic delegates. Good morning. This is Reed Collins with the CBS World News Roundup. The space shuttle is about to reach out and touch something, and NASA hopes it will be the handle of the ailing solar satellite, which defied all efforts to haul it in on Sunday. The drama is about to begin 307 miles up, and Bruce Dunning reports from the Kennedy Space Center.
Challenger is close enough to begin its attempt to pluck Solar Max from its orbit. Within an hour, astronaut Terry Hart is scheduled to stretch the triple-jointed crane up to Solar Max and try to latch the crane onto the link-up pin. It's the last chance to make this a successful mission. Challenger is running low on fuel. It's a trickier maneuver now than originally planned, snagging Solar Max without having an astronaut steadying the crippled satellite. And if at first they don't succeed, they'll try again, so long as the fuel holds out. Once they have it snagged, it should take about a half hour to move the Solar Max into the cargo bay and lay it in the cradle for repairs. NASA spokesmen are optimistic. Earthbound astronauts have been simulating this maneuver and catching Solar Max on the first try. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Now carefully closing in for a final try at salvaging a $77 million satellite. The most critical moment of this ambitious attempt to save America's only solar observatory, now in orbit, is at hand. KTRH's Doug Miller reports live from the Johnson Space Center.
Challenger's arm is cocked and ready. The sun-watching satellite that first appeared as a star above the Earth's horizon this morning is now less than 400 feet away. The shuttle slowing its approach to the big bird down to less than a half foot a second. Any moment now, Challenger is expected to park itself about 250 feet away from Solar Max. Astronaut T.J. Hart will stretch the shuttle's robot arm. And the highest flying winged craft in history is scheduled to snag the first satellite marked for rescue in orbit. If the crew succeeds, it will probably win an extra day in orbit and a second spacewalk to fix the busted Solar Max satellite. If they fail, Challenger may be ordered home early. Its main mission on this flight, a failure. Now, the shuttle is scheduled to snag the satellite about 25 minutes from now, and KTRH will update you throughout the morning on the progress of this second attempt to rescue the Solar Max satellite. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
We've got it, and we're in the process of putting in the FSM. Outstanding. Forward RCS propeller remaining is 41 Charlie. Roger, copy that. Jerry, we've got one point. Roger, go ahead. Yeah, on left RCS, tank ventilation, piece valve, that went open on it, so we were getting ready to, when it came out of the interconnect, it didn't open, it got a barber ball, and just put it switch back in JPC. Roger, we copy that, which is fuel side. Jubilation in mission control as Bob Crippen reports that Challenger has captured the Solar Max satellite. Capture was done over the Indian Ocean between the range of the Cheetah satellite and the Argody tracking station, and was done sometime in the last 6 to 8 minutes. Terry Hart, the mission specialist on this mission, whose expertise is in the remote manipulator arm, has successfully latched that arm onto the grappling fixture of the Solar Max satellite. Now Hart is in the process of bringing the Solar Max satellite back into the Challenger payload bay and having it berthed at the flight support station. And as we listen for more from the crew, we'll hear more from NSI's Pat Jones about what will happen there.
CBS News, this is Jackie Judd. The big one that got away Sunday is now within reach of Challenger's astronauts. The disabled Solar Max satellite is just about ready for the first repair job in space. We go now live to Bruce Dunning at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
We've got it. The voice from outer space. Outstanding, said Mission Control. Astronaut Terry Hart swung the triple-jointed arm and snagged the satellite. This was the make or break of the mission. Now the astronauts can either repair Solar Max on board the shuttle or bring it back to Earth. It's still a slow, delicate operation. It may take as much as a half hour for the 50-foot arm to ease Solar Max toward the shuttle. NASA scientists over the past few days managed to stabilize the satellite so that the astronauts could grapple it directly without an astronaut flying out to steady it. So, more than 300 miles from Earth, higher than a shuttle has ever gone, the shuttle program is now proving its worth. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Max is saved.
Okay, we've got it, and we're in the process of putting in the FSM. Outstanding.
Applause and cheers breaking out in Mission Control this morning. The Lucid $77 million satellite that defied rescue 2 days ago now rests on the end of the shuttle's robot arm. Astronaut T.J. Hart must now lower the big bird with its 15-foot wide solar panel wings into a narrow berthing ring inside the shuttle's cargo bay. Now, the spot, that spot is going to serve as a garage for the first satellite mechanics in space. Their spacewalk will probably come tomorrow. That's the original plan. Of course, NASA is drawing up its plans as it goes along here. Odds are the spacewalk will come tomorrow, though, and there's a very good chance that Challenger's mission now will be extended. Instead of landing on Thursday, it's expected to land on Friday. Again, the elusive $77 million Solar Max satellite is now on the end of the shuttle's robot arm, rescued by the 5-man crew of Challenger. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News. Standing, the word from Mission Control, erupting in cheers and yells with the word that Solar Max is saved. Commander Bob Crippen, about a half an hour ago, gently edged the shuttle less than 50 feet away from the crippled satellite as astronaut T.J. Hart reached out with the shuttle's robot arm and carefully snagged a 3-pronged handle at the broken bird's base. Solar Max just minutes ago has been locked into a berthing ring that will serve as its parking space during this garage call in orbit. Now comes another potentially tricky maneuver. Solar Max must be twisted around so that its busted control system and its main electronics box face into the cargo bay. So the berthing ring in which it rests will be tilted down at an angle. That way its 15-foot wide solar panel wings won't knock into the shuttle's tail. But the big work is now over. NASA has won a sorely needed victory for the Space Shuttle program. Tomorrow, a walk in space to fix the busted satellite, the first service call in orbit. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
CBS News, this is Judy Muller. When at first they did not succeed, the shuttle crew tried again, and this time, success along with a disabled satellite was in their grasp. The Solar Max is now latched into the shuttle's cargo bay. Bruce Dunning reports.
That America's only solar observatory in orbit is now firmly latched into place, with astronaut T.J. Hart pulling away the shuttle's robot arm.
Challenger Houston, we're showing 3 good lines. And a reminder for TJ, we'd like to go to test mode before you release. Yeah, you did it.
But now comes the hard part, though. 2 spacewalking astronauts must crawl out into the cargo bay to replace the satellite's control system and replace an electronics box. It's no easy task, especially wearing the bulky gloves of the shuttle spacesuits. The first mechanic service call in space is scheduled for tomorrow. And with the rescue of the $77 million Solar Max, Challenger's astronauts have probably won themselves an extra day in space. More than that, they've converted what was an embarrassing failure into a rousing success for America's Space Shuttle. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
CBS News, I'm Richard C. Hoften.
The President of the United States.
Congratulations to the crew of the Challenger, now being radioed up to the Space Shuttle in a phone call from the President.
I'm calling to congratulate you and the rest of the crew aboard the Challenger. They are on an historic mission. The retrieval of the Solar Max satellite this morning was just great.
Congratulations there for scoring a last-ditch rescue of the crippled Solar Max satellite, saving this nation's only solar observatory in orbit, and scoring a memorable first for America's Space Shuttle. Tomorrow comes the first attempt at fixing a broken satellite in orbit. A hard day's work for spacesuited astronauts George Pinky Nelson and James Ox Van Hoften. All of this will probably keep the shuttle in orbit an extra day. A formal decision from NASA will probably come this afternoon. But now it is an hour for praise from the President, now talking to the crew of the Challenger. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News. Erupted in Mission Control as Commander Bob Crippen broke the news NASA was waiting for. The flight that 2 days ago appeared to be on the brink of failure had bounced back. The robot arm snagged the $77 million Solar Max satellite and pulled it into Challenger's cargo bay. Crippen radioed thanks to those on the ground who had made it possible.
Congratulations to all those guys down there that made it possible. Roger, it's a great team effort.
The sentiments were quickly echoed in a phone call from President Reagan.
I guess you made one long reach for man this morning when you snapped that satellite with the 50-foot robot arm.
The only bad news is that Challenger is running a bit low on fuel, so the shuttle will not fire into a higher orbit before freeing its captive satellite. That boost from Challenger would have lengthened the life of America's only orbiting solar observatory by 2 years. Now the stage is set for the spacewalk scheduled tomorrow and the complex satellite repair. Today's snatching of Solar Max has probably won Challenger's 5 astronauts an extra day in orbit. But more importantly for NASA, it has turned what was an embarrassing failure into a cause for celebration. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
In space, what they couldn't do the other day, the astronauts in the Challenger shuttle did today. Bruce Dunning has that story.
With a deft twist of the shuttle's 50-foot-long arm, astronaut Terry Hart plucked the ailing Solar Observatory satellite from its orbit. Moments later, capsule communicator Terry White confirmed that the mission had been saved from the failure it faced 2 days ago.
Another space first as Solar Max is captured, brought aboard, latched down, and moved into position for repair.
The shuttle now has achieved a major goal. It's proved it can be an outer space repair truck able to pick up a space vehicle for servicing. Congratulations came from President Reagan soon after the Solar Max was locked down.
The retrieval of the Solar Max satellite this morning was just great. And you and the crew demonstrated once again just how versatile the space shuttle is and what we can accomplish by having a team in space and on the ground.
Tomorrow, astronauts Pinky Nelson and Ox Van Hoften will make the needed repairs on the satellite. And NASA officials confirmed that the mission will be extended 1 more day, so they can test the repaired satellite and drop it back into orbit before heading home. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
George Nelson had tried to grab Solar Max Sunday with one of those jet backpacks. 3 attempts, 3 failures. Then 4 attempts were made with the mechanical arm to snare the satellite, but they also missed the mark. The Solar Max had begun spinning out of control at that point, and Mission Control advised that they were in danger of losing the $400 million spacecraft. But the Goddard Space Center miraculously commanded Solar Max to stability Monday morning, allowing Bob Crippen to fly Challenger close in again this morning to give Hart another shot with the arm. NASA said yesterday if Hart failed, they'd lost Solar Max for good. The crew came through on the very first attempt.
Okay, we've got it, and we're in the process of putting in the FSF. Outstanding.
The capture was so critical to the American shuttle program that the chief executive himself congratulated the man at the helm of the robot arm.
And Terry, I guess you made one long reach for man this morning when you snapped that satellite with the 50-foot robot arm.
The president also dealt a couple of attaboys to Pinky Nelson and Ox Van Hoften, who get to walk in space again tomorrow.
George and Jim, you've done fine work as well. The pictures sent back of you working in space are spectacular. They're also a little scary for those of us that are sitting comfortably anchored to the Earth.
Wednesday's spacewalk is strictly business for the crew. Their sole purpose is to fix Solar Max's attitude control system and electronic control box. Ox Van Hoften will ride the end of that mechanical arm cherry picker style in order to get a better vantage point to do his work. The spacewalk is scheduled for at least 6 hours with the possibility of a 1 or 2 hour extension. In the meantime, sources tell KTRH a plan is being developed at this moment to attempt a rescue of at least one of the 2 satellites lost during the last shuttle mission. Although planning is still very much in the developmental stage, KTRH has learned such a rescue mission could come as soon as this fall. Chris Peterson, KTRH News at the Johnson Space Center.
CBS News, this is Paul Lockwood. The shuttle is up and about now after the latest slate period. Wednesday is shaping up as a busy day, especially for 2 of the astronauts who will be doing some unique repair work.
Astronauts George Nelson and James Van Hoften will attempt to repair the Solar Maximum satellite. They've got several things that they want to accomplish, but the main thing they'd like to do is to repair the attitude control system module. If the Solar Maximum satellite can be repaired, it will be released back into space by the astronauts, and if they find the particular repairs too hard to do in space, they'll load it back into cargo bay of Challenger and bring it back home.
That's Weta Brewington of NASA at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The shuttle mission has been extended by 1 day, with landing at Cape Canaveral now set for Friday.
CBS News, I'm Bill Whitney. Shuttle's test begins within the hour when astronauts Nelson and Van Hoften pass through the airlock between the cabin and Challenger's cargo bay to start repairs on the Solar Max satellite. The shuttle passed the first part of the test yesterday when astronaut Terry Hart snagged Solar Max with Challenger's robot arm.
Shuttle Challenger doing very well this morning, thank you. Everything going smoothly, including the first mechanical repair job ever tried up in space, as they are busily working on that $77 million Solar Max satellite. Spacewalking and all kinds of other things are coming up later in the day, too. A very busy day today for the Space Shuttle boys. We'll have Doug Miller coming up during the 5 o'clock news. He'll have a live update for us from the Johnson Space Center on what's happening now.
CBS News, this is Reed Collins. George Nelson and James Van Hoften were up and at 'em 2 hours ago, donning their spacesuits and climbing back to get to work on that solar satellite, the one they snared yesterday.
Boy, rough this thing works. I tell you what, when I get this loose, when you go on down, provision down there where you can grab the top of it.
The repair job has no time limit, and the hourly rate for space mechanics would make your garageman delirious. If Solar Max can be made to work, it will be placed back into space, and this shuttle mission would be pronounced a success.
Down Solar Max's most crucial piece of busted equipment. Astronaut James Ox Van Hoften climbed onto Challenger's robot arm with astronaut T.J. Hart at the controls.
Hey, T.J., take her up.
Using a custom-designed mechanized monkey wrench, Van Hoften pulled out the bolts holding into place the satellite's attitude control system. That's the device that points the orbiting solar observatory toward its targets on the sun. History's first space grease monkey says the repairs are going even smoother than the simulations. Even the tiny screws that everyone feared might float away have been behaving themselves so far. Switching out that control system was the most important objective of this spacewalk. One official here at NASA said that even if the astronauts stopped right now, the spacewalk would be worth a case of champagne. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
Astronauts busy at work on the satellite. May get a little bite of TV coverage in about 27 minutes or so through the TDRS satellite. But the next television is scheduled for 6:21 Central Time, a little over an hour from now, when the orbiter goes once around the Earth and we get picked up by the Hawaii tracking station. Challenger now approaching the western coast of Africa, relaying communications through a ground station at Dakar, Senegal. You're listening to Dial-a-Shuttle. We're monitoring communications from the astronauts on Challenger to mission control. Appear to be a little gap in the communications right now. Astronauts have been working on the Solar Max mission satellite.
Sorry, this is a radiator.
How's that, thank you? Is that enough for you to... Yeah, that'll do, thank you. Ready to go back up? Yeah.
Okay, back up. There you go, stop there for a second.
Oh, okay. Challenger Houston through Dakar, and we're getting TV through TDRS. Get some nice views of the doors coming open there. We'd like the SCIU to come on so we can look at battery temps. And did you copy my call for a Spec 21 on and then resume?
No, we didn't get that. I'll get the SCIU on that, sir. We go up a little bit, DJ.
Okay, coming up.
Busy. Heads up.
Okay, brakes are coming on. This is Dial-a-Shuttle. Getting some clear pictures through the TDRS, a little sooner than I expected. turn on his camera and you can go to FM antenna lower.
Let me know. I'll try close up if you want that. I'll tell you what, Jerry, you got UTTV now?
Roughly confirmed.
Jerry, can you see the inside of that, Jerry?
Sure can. We can see all the wires.
Okay. The box, you can see it's in really good shape. I don't see anything wrong with it. I tell you, the only thing we've noticed on this whole satellite that looks kind of degraded is up on the top of the CP there, that the mylar that was around it is really, there's nothing left on it. It looks pretty ragged. Other than that, everything looks pretty good. But I need to go up about 4 or 5 inches, about 6 inches.
Okay, coming up. You might want to go close on your TV there.
Okay, I was going to
try that one.
Okay. Stop.
Okay, I'll put the brakes on.
Okay, that's close.
Okay, that made a good sharp on.
Thank you. Bent this thing up pretty good the other day. Good. Okay. So here, Tim.
Satellite overhaul in space is running as smooth as an oil change on Earth. What promised to be the most difficult task of the entire shuttle mission is turning out to be what astronaut James Van Hoften calls a piece of cake.
So you can pass on to all the EV folks that this stuff is really working slick. No problems whatsoever so far.
Riding on Challenger's robot arm like a repairman on a crane, Van Hoften used a custom-designed mechanized monkey wrench to switch out the satellite's attitude control system. Now that's the device that points the $77 million orbiting its solar observatory toward its targets on the sun. And that is the most important part of today's repair job. The spacewalkers are laughing and joking, saying they can't believe it. History's first satellite repair in space is turning out to be even easier than the simulations on Earth. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
Right now, TJ Hart operating big robot arm, hauling the astronauts up and down from inside the cabin.
Oh, that stuff off already?
Dial-a-shuttle, and we come to you live from the Appreciate the report, and PJ, we'd like Pinky to go ahead and get some pictures of the solar arrays and the top of the spacecraft before we go on to the measurements of the funding pin and the Star Trek covers.
Okay. That Mylar tape we got works really good. It works better than the other stuff, but it ticks pretty well.
Hey, Jerry, we're going to include a picture of the Hixus on the top also when we do that, if that's all right with y'all.
Roger, that sounds good to us.
Okay, we thought we'd pick it up at the same time.
Up about 6 inches, please. Okay, you want to go up 6? Up in, I can see up an orbiter coordinates I'm coming up now. About 2 tenths of a foot per second. Say when? Want to stop now? Yep, okay. Good mode to inscribe something new on their heart here.
You're listening to Dial-a-Shuttle.
The surface of this Hoften looks like it's been finger painted on, Jerry. Okay, take the first the cockpit and get far enough to I think I'm not hearing you too well. Were you talking to me? Cockpit, a little bit, and start first towards the cockpit. I'm hearing him. You hearing him? Okay, I think I'm on there. Okay, I think it was Jerry who was talking. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead with what you were saying. Oh, were you saying something about cockpit?
I need to move towards the cockpit a little bit. Okay, you need to move toward the cockpit. Okay. Okay, I got my eyes back out the window now, and I'm bringing you forward toward the cockpit. Okay. Still down to about 8 days there. Not that far. Stop, Jerry. Okay, that wasn't much. Okay, now I gotta go, want to go back? Back a little bit toward starboard a little bit. Back and toward the starboard wing? Yes. Yeah, that's far enough starboard. Okay. Back for it? Back for it. Okay. Okay, that's good for now, Jerry. Okay. Lights on. Pretty unreal, I must say.
Right now, the astronaut's riding the remote manipulator.
Look at that, real pretty.
And you've reached Dial-a-Shuttle. Bring you.
Now he was nice with the sun behind the tail.
Okay, we get the cap on this one, flying out at about 3 feet per second. There you go, now we did that. Popped off. What I said.
And you've reached Dial-a-Shuttle. From the Johnson Space Center, Houston, Texas.
I think that blanket will be plenty to protect this thing. And Jerry, if you're trying to talk to us, we're not getting anything.
Hey, on some things, from your standpoint, would it be better to do the Star Trekker cover and inspect the Star Trekker light baffle to get ox down low and get rid of some of that stuff before you go up and do the exit?
We gotta get rid of all this stuff first.
Why don't we do that way, and I'll take my Houston as soon as I get a hold of them.
Yeah, we gotta get all this junk out of here. There's too much stuff. I think we got plenty of time. Okay, Jerry, I need to go down about a foot. down. That's what you said. Oh, wow, it's empty. What is it? It's close to where? United States of America. Maybe good, Gary. Maybe Mexico. I think that's Mexico. I don't know the Mexico. Yeah, we're quite far. I think you can see California, but not, that big day down there on the Mexico. How about San Diego? That what? San Diego? No, no. How's your position? I'll put the brakes on. Okay, Terry, see this little cone there? Get a transponder cone? Yeah, put me right in front of that. Right in front of that. You want to be shot my left and one side. We're going to do a measurement now, Ed. No. Let's get this stuff put away first, then we get off the stick. Okay, I just didn't know where you are. What are you planning right now? I tell you, we can tape it down the thermal blanket, and as soon as we get done with that, we can go down and put this stuff away. Okay, that's fine, huh? Stuff along the, okay, Jerry, I have to go towards the satellite.
Mondale passes the halfway mark in delegates with his win in Pennsylvania. The astromechanics repair the solar satellite snared by the space shuttle. Good morning, this is Reed Collins with the CBS World News Roundup. The astronauts are winding up a 4-hour repair job to the solar satellite, the one they hauled into the cargo bay yesterday. Parts and labor, about $50 million. Bruce Dunning has the story at the Kennedy Space Center.
Hanging upside down in space, looking down at the moon, Ox Van Hoften and Pinky Nelson are performing surgery on the instrument package of the Solar Max. Like surgery in boxing gloves, they say, referring to their bulky mitten spacesuits. But all's going well. The two spacewalkers are ahead of schedule. They quickly replaced the damaged attitude control system. Now they're probing deep within the instrument package, a part of the Solar Max never intended for repair in space. Nelson is locked by his feet to the shuttle's crane and is swung around by remote control.
Okay, I wasn't watching. Okay, now I got to go back? Back a little bit, towards starboard a little bit. Back and toward the starboard wing.
If the Solar Max tests out successfully, the shuttle will drop it in orbit tomorrow and come home to Florida on Friday. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Up there.
dial-a-shuttle. We stand by for more from the crew Challenger. Now 5 minutes. I can give you the quick jetty, Nick.
back that thing up a little bit. Pull you back toward the cockpit, huh? Yeah. The comps are getting better. So quiet. Okay, that's fine. Okay. We got about 10 minutes of sun left. Mission 41C. About 3 minutes left between 4 lost of signal. Challenger Houston, we've got 3 minutes left on Peters.
Roger, Jerry, you guys going to be able to complete the power reconnect if RD was to take any action subsequent to LOS?
Roger, T tells me it's complete.
Okay. Are you doing any other commanding at this time?
Stand by. Okay, Crip, we're done commanding from here at Houston. The POC will be commanding at Guam, and I've got a message for you from the Cape.
Up you go.
Roger, the message reads, "We love you to the max!" Exclamation point. Signed, Jenny, June, Wendy, Val, and Susie.
That's very nice. So you can tell the guys will appreciate that. Thomas returned.
5 times over. Big guy can get this focus down there. That's it? Got the focus train back up there? Yeah, man. Hard worker. When can we get down there? Star Tracker cover off. Nope. Well, there weren't a lot of lessons from those bees in there. We're doing a little worker bee. Hey, Scott?
Hello.
When can we get the Star Tracker cover off?
After they get done to the commanding and stuff, which is past Guam, it'll be a while yet.
All right.
Probably another 15, 20 minutes.
Well, darn. Are we putting the MFR away now? Is that the plan?
Yeah, you're going to put the MFR away, and then we got a little something for you after that.
Okay. What am I doing standing here? I don't know. I'm doing all the work. I'm all watching you work. It's okay.
Merry Christmas, Ox, and we got 50 seconds till last Guam at 5-1.
Jerry said Merry Christmas to you. Okay.
Houston Challenger, is Ox got to go?
That's a firm. We're go if you're go.
We're go if you're go.
Okay, we're go. Ox? Yeah. You get to do your MMU checkout.
All right. Like I said, I hate to tell you this, but we didn't bring out the lights.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, we're going to close. And loss of signal from the crew from the tracking data and relay satellite. It will be 7 minutes before they're acquired by Guam. We'll stand by for a summary of that last pass from the Public Affairs Department here at NASA. We can tell you we're 4.5 hours into what's scheduled to be a 6-hour EVA. Things going exceedingly well. Very smooth, perhaps even better than expected. Astronauts James Van Hoften and George Nelson got to work early this morning before 3 o'clock out in the payload bay. Central Standard Time, set to work on their repair job on the disabled Solar Max satellite. The first mission was to work on the automatic control system. Van Hoff, this is Mission
finished more than an hour ahead of schedule. The spacewalking satellite handymen have repaired all of the systems they originally planned to fix on the Solar Max satellite, and now they're packing up their tools in Challenger's cargo bay.
Back to the locker? Head to the locker. Okay. Holy. No aerobatics for one day.
The satellite repair job has gone even smoother than the simulations on Earth. As a matter of fact, you might say that the satellite fix-a-job in space is going even smoother than an oil change on Earth. And now the crew has some time for sightseeing.
That's the Gulf Coast. Yeah, we're coming right by Houston now. Is that right? That's what I thought. That looks like Houston down there. It's not on the grid. We're up here by Houston. Right.
Don't drop anything on us, guys.
An exuberant astronaut George Pinky Nelson even took time to wish his parents a happy anniversary down on Earth. Just seconds ago, Mission Control gave astronaut James Ox Van Hoften a reward for a job well done. They've told him to go ahead and take a ride on the Jet Backpack. It's an engineering test that had been canceled ever since the problems developed with this big bird, but now it has been added back to the flight plan since the Solar Max satellite has been patched up way ahead of schedule. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
CBS News, this is Jackie Judd. The first ever repair job in space appears to have come off without a hitch. Bruce Dunning reports from the Kennedy Space Center.
Getting Solar Max swung on board the Challenger nearly ended in failure, but once it was there, the shuttle crew wrapped up repairs way ahead of schedule. Terry White, the voice of Mission Control.
All of the repair work is complete now on Solar Max, and the Goddard Payload Operations Control Center will be doing some commanding and checkout through the Guam station.
Pinky Nelson and Ox Van Hoften replaced the attitude control system. Then they dug deep into the satellite's instrument package to repair the main electronics box. A complicated bit of surgery because this was never intended for outer space maintenance. Finally, Nelson took a spectacular ride out into space at the end of the shuttle's triple-jointed arm, checking out the satellite's solar panels. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Free ride on a space shuttle jet backpack. That's what astronaut James Van Hoften has won now that he and astronaut George Nelson have repaired the crippled Solar Max satellite. Now, that so-called engineering test had been scratched from today's flight plan to allow plenty of time for fixing the Solar Max satellite, but the service call in orbit was so smooth that the spacewalking astronauts wrapped it all up more than an hour ahead of schedule. Van Hoften riding the robot arm above the shuttle as he looked down at the moon.
Got the moon in the background. Yeah. Pitching myself down like this is really an uncomfortable feeling.
Do you feel like you're going to fall?
I feel like I'm going to fall.
The robot arm now is going to hold the $77 million satellite above the shuttle for a checkout by ground controllers, who will soon find out whether history's first handymen in orbit have fully fixed America's only solar observatory in space. Van Hoften now flying out of the cargo bay for his free ride on that backpack. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
CBS News, this is Doug Poling. If there were astronauts George Nelson and James Van Hoften have completed a 3.5-hour repair job on that faulty solar observatory. In order to do it, they had to make a spacewalk to the open cargo bay of Challenger. Current plans are to bring the Challenger and its 5 astronauts home on Friday. The Soviet Union space capsule returned safely to Earth today. The 3-man crew included the first man from India to travel in space. China confirmed today it is thinking about the possibility of a joint space venture among Chinese and American astronauts. The idea was proposed by the administration, reportedly as part of a technology agreement to be signed when President Reagan visits China later this month.
CBS News, this is Rob Armstrong. A successful house call on an ailing satellite, both doctors and patient doing fine. The latest from Bruce Dunning.
Ox Van Hoften and Pinky Nelson are back inside the Challenger. They finished the repairs to Solar Max far more quickly than expected. They replaced the attitude control system and dug into the satellite's instrument package to replace the main electronics box. The first tests by computers back on Earth indicate the repairs seem successful. Mission Control ordered the crew to prepare the Solar Max for returning to orbit.
The crew has a go to commence the tilt spin and reposition for a grapple, and overnight carrying of the Solar Max at the end of the remote arm.
The quick work lifted spirits even higher than they were yesterday when the successful capture of Solar Max turned the mission's near failure into triumph. Bruce Dunning, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center, Florida.
Challenger's robot arm has just lifted out of the cargo bay a newly refurbished Solar Max satellite. And as the $77 million bird rests on the end of the arm, ground controllers are checking it out to confirm that it's fully fixed. Mission Control has already told the crew that the new systems are radioing data back to Earth.
We have a good mating of the new module on the spacecraft.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Oh, you guys are giving me a real good day here.
The two satellite handymen are still inside the shuttle's airlock, though. It was only a few minutes ago that they heard this order from Mission Control.
Hey, it's time for Jimbo and Pinky to come in and get their hands washed for supper.
Sounds like a winner. We got steaks on tonight.
Now, the satellite is going to spend the night on the robot arm for a checkup. Tomorrow, it's to be cut loose back into space. The crew comes home on Friday. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Doug Miller, KTRH News.
Solar Max was successfully repaired this morning by astronaut Ox Van Hoften with an assist from Pinky Nelson. The crew performed their handyman task so well that they finished in 4 hours, 2 ahead of schedule. That allowed Ox a chance to fly the jet backpack that Nelson flew Sunday morning. After a 7-hour stroll in space, the crew went back inside, and Terry Hart used the robot arm to hoist Solar Max out of its service station in the cargo bay to begin a series of tests from the ground. If they all check out, Solar Max will be put back into operation in the wee hours of Thursday morning. In the meantime, the weather forecast for the Florida landing site Friday morning looks favorable for the Challenger to glide in shortly after 6 Houston time. Live at the Johnson Space Center, Chris Peterson, KTRH News.
CBS News, I'm Dallas Townsend. Key and Ox, otherwise known as George Nelson and James Van Hoften, performed a 7-hour repair job today 300 miles out in space. The object of their attention was the crippled Solar Max satellite, now safe in the cargo bay of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Well, and now they're waiting for test results that may let them put Solar Max back to work, doing the job to which it was assigned.